Hey guys, how you doing?
I think they're looking pretty well out there, frankly. They're tolerating us.
Yeah, they are.
They're
still
back.
here.
They've come to watch us again.
Come back again.
So here we are,
Yeah.
still up north, playing more fabulous guitars. And this is a really interesting pairing we've got here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start, because then he's going to stop me quickly banging on about yet another
Okay,
bloody
guys.
Telecaster.
Basically, what's happened is I've just had enough of this because Bob has not been.
All he talks about.
Is a black guy
All day.
telly for the last 2 years. It's literally all. It's just got so boring, guys. I'm just bored out of my skull.
So I'll keep it quick. I've played another 4 in the last 7 days. This being the 4th. Okay. They've all been really great. I played a fabulous 53 down in London 3 days ago. Really rang like a bell. This one's nice. This I think is a 54. Because by 55 they'd gone into white guards and they were changing. But this is later because it's got the serial number on the back plate, not on the bridge dish. So this is definitely a later blackguard. Neck's quite big. Everything seems to be fine about it. Bakelite guard. The wiring configuration, it hasn't got the dead bass position. So it's like a modern telly. Tone and volume work on all of the settings. And hasn't got the blend control.
Nice size neck.
Big
Very
neck,
nice.
big neck, and also acoustically, it rings.
You can tell by his facial expressions.
It's kind of right. And this belongs to our kind host's son now.
And it's an Esquire.
Lucky guy. Now, it is indeed an Esquire. So, bearing in mind that all Esquires and Telecasters of that day, they were made the same, but without this pickup. This is probably, therefore, an Esquire that's been modified to be a Telecaster with 2 pickups. Sometime after it was made, it could have been done any time. It could have been done
The routing have already been in there.
The routing was the same for all of them.
Right.
Clever old Leo Fender,
Yeah.
because he knew it was invisible.
Yeah.
So if you look at any old Esquire, you take the pick guard off, all the channels are there. So conversion to this kind of pickup, all you've got to do is cut a hole and do a bit of soldering.
And we've got a Bakelite. This is a Bakelite, isn't
Yeah, it's a Bakelite. And the Bakelite in those days, for reasons unknown to anyone, they took the Bakelite and they sprayed it with a black gloss.
it? Yeah.
So you can usually, one of the ways of telling an original guard is that under here where the plectrum goes, there's wear. So the paint is worn off here.
And also there's meant to be a circle, isn't there, on the other side?
Underneath, because they sprayed it on a paint tin
Right.
and it left its mark. Even though it was the other side, some of the spray paint gas, the cloud just filtered underneath and left a very faint mark.
I see.
And without unscrewing it, we won't know that. But I mean, it all looks right. The thickness is right. Neck's right. This has never been shaved down or anything. You can tell that by the shape of the plug. The machine heads are great. Blah blah. But it is interesting because this is probably as close as I've ever seen to a Bruce Springsteen guitar, because Bruce Springsteen's guitar, his famous guitar, the only one he plays so brilliantly, is an Esquire with an added pickup. And this is probably as near as I've ever seen to a Springsteen guitar.
Wow.
Now, some dealers in America who handle 5,000 of these every fortnight, as if, they'll know all about this. I mean, I've been very lucky in the last year to play about well over a dozen of these now, which is amazing. And what's our man's name? The guy who's just been to America.
Good friend of mine, James Oliver.
So shout out to James Oliver, terrific guitar
Hi,
player.
James.
Plays quite a lot of rockabilly and kind of, roots,
Great guy as
stuff.
well. Nice guy.
And he's just been out on safari to the States and he's picked up a blackguard.
When he was out on tour, he
I'm
was it.
full of envy, but he's done it. He's actually hit the Holy Grail. Love to see his guitar. Hope I do. But he's hit that spot. But I think he's got a telly, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got a telly. He's got a 54.
54, pretty good. So probably same age as this, but a telly rather than an Esquire made into a telly. Anyway, it's a blackguard. It's bloody lovely. The trouble is, I am hopelessly addicted. I've only played one that was a bit meh. Every other one I've played.
We'll be talking about this guitar for the next week.
Pretty great. Okay, this guitar has got a much more interesting story. So let's focus on it.
So, what is the story of this guitar, Bob? Can you tell us?
So
first of all, let me just.
this guitar comes from a period when a man with only 2 fingers remaining on his left hand used to play some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Eddie Lang, who was your
Yeah.
father's favourite.
My dad's favourite guitar
Yeah.
player, Eddie
Eddie
Lang.
Lang.
So this is a 40s Gibson, okay? Probably something like an L48. The designations from back then do elude me a little bit. It's that kind of... And a friend of mine, actually, an old friend of mine, has a Gibson, one of these. But this is a Gibson. It's got the Gibson sticker inside. But on the headstock, it says Robinson. Now, this comes from an era when you're talking about kind of around the time of war, around the time when, you know, even countries that weren't directly in the front line of the war, if you like America, you know, who joined the war late, right? But everybody's economy was affected by the war. Okay, so a lot of companies were struggling and they were manufacturing things other than what they'd made, in Gibson's case, guitars. They were also producing kind of things for own labels like stores. And indeed that continued into the 60s. Epiphone, as you might remember, produced a coronet that had a D rather than an E on it because it said Dwight on the top because it was made for a chain store in Midwestern America. So this is, Robinson is probably the retailer, I would guess, or it could even be a subsidiary intermediary manufacturer supplying the Sears Roebuck catalogue or something. Somebody in America out there will know the stuff I don't know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
But it's a Gibson with Robinson on the top. So it's dead interesting, but the story gets more interesting because it belonged to a young man who, we've actually got a photograph which we'll
display right
now. He acquired this guitar at the same time as he was studying to be a World War II pilot, flying a kind of plane called a Tempest,
a Hawker Tempest,
which was a bit bigger than the famous and fated Hurricanes and Spitfires, but was equally instrumental in the war effort. And they used to go out and stalk
V1.
the planes that carried the V1 missiles.
the Luftwaffe,
The Hun.
the Hun.
The Hun. Anyway,
Yeah.
right, now we can't say that anymore. Now
Can you
being
do the
part of Europe.
famous John Cleese walk?
I'm not going to do the famous.
Is that allowed? Is that allowed, or is it not
I
PC?
think I think that's probably beyond the pale now.
Oh, okay. Well,
But anyway,
fair enough.
you can.
But can you do that?
You can look at. I can't do that.
Well,
But you can look it up on YouTube. Anyway, so he acquired this guitar when he was probably they sent him out to die very young in those days. So he's probably about 20 plus or minus. And there's this fantastic picture of him sitting playing this in black and white in his fatigues and all the rest of it.
and
So-
maybe this was in the plane. Who knows?
no, you couldn't. They couldn't even get a glass of water or sandwiches in those planes. They were
Was it
truly
a one-seater?
sardine tins of death.
Right.
And think of the war effort. I mean, they were putting these planes up, making them as fast as they could, and popping them up in the air where they could barely fly.
But you can imagine him coming back to his barracks and to chill out and de-stress. He would be strumming this. with his
Absolutely.
friends.
And the nice coda to this story is I actually asked our host here, most important question. Okay, so he went up in a plane, but did he come back? And he did come back, and he lived a long and full life afterwards, because so many of our guys and lots of other people's guys, and frankly the enemy's guys too, because they didn't really have a say in what they were doing, they all got sent up there in these death trap tin cans to shoot the hell out of each other and kill each other, and many didn't come back. In fact, that was one of the most dangerous jobs in the military, was going up and flying those fighter planes and the bombers that they protected. Terrifying.
His name was Harry Shaw.
Harry Shaw, DFC.
DFC.
And DFC is the Distinguished Flying Cross, which is quite a high... It's quite a high accolade, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is not far
Everybody
off.
got those.
No. So he obviously did an awful lot of the right things and great bravery, and he had, luck and sufficient noodle to make it home as well, which is amazing. And all that story is in this guitar, which is an old Gibson Archtop, as a result of which, one of the things these guitars do is I'm sitting right in front of it, and when he plays it, it's quite loud. But if you listen to this guitar about 15 or 20 yards that way, these guitars have the most amazing throw, because that's what they were designed to do. Cut through jazz bands, horns, piano, voice, and project out into an audience before amplification. And that's what they do. Lovely, lovely. And so, you know, these, I mean, as you know, we're kind of more expert in the kind of 50s and 60s space. So this is prior to our knowledge and expertise. But it is an insight into how those guitars were made and also occasionally rebadged. It's a really fascinating
and it's fantastic when a guitar really does have a story to tell.
Absolutely.
You know, because it's one thing, you know, a guitar being a vintage guitar worth a lot of money. But for me, this is even more interesting because it has a story.
Ah, and what a story.
You know,
yeah, a story of great honour and distinction too.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I don't think we, let alone you, expected a little bit of a history lesson in this one, but
No.
that's what we've ended up with. So, hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed our guest microphone stand, who had to be sitting in between us so it could pick Ramon's lovely playing up. With that, we'll say goodbye for now. Watch us again soon. There's yet more good stuff to come.
It's goodbye from him,
And
the
it's
man.
goodbye from him too.
Take care.
See ya. Bye.